Yeah. First of all, on behalf, Bismillah wa salam ala Rasulullah, on behalf of Construction Engineering and Management Department, I am blessed to welcome you all to this forum entitled The Future of Saudi Construction Industry. As you know, the construction industry plays a major role in driving economic growth and has a direct impact on Saudi GDP. The Saudi Arabian construction market is expected to witness significant growth and over lucrative potential due to its Vision 2030. Today, we are honored that a list of professors who are experts in the construction and project management are here to talk about the future of the Saudi construction. Our speakers are Dr. Ali Shash. Dr. Ali is a professor of construction engineering and management at KFUPM. Dr. Ali is the manager of the KFUPM Construction Industry Institute. His research interest is in cost engineering and project delivery system. The second speaker is Dr. Eyad Buhulaiga. Dr. Eyad has 20 years of experience in information and technology management with extensive experience in energy industry. Dr. Eyad is currently a strategic executive director of Microsoft Arabia and has spent most of his career with Saudi Aramco. The third speaker is Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghamdi. Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghamdi has more than 20 years of experience and currently works as a value management specialist for Saudi Aramco. And the last speaker is Master Mosley, is a postgraduate researcher at KFUPM. Mosley has extensive experience in contract management, construction, dispute, and conflict resolution. So the schedule of this event, we start by introducing construction engineering and management by Dr. Laith, the chairman of the department. Then we will start at 4:10. Dr. Ali will present his topic. After that, the second speaker, Dr. Eyad Buhulaiga, will deliver his presentation at 4:40. Then we have a panel discussion. If you have any question or comment, we have 15 minutes for panel discussion. Then we have a break. After that, we will start our second session. We will start at 5:35 by Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghamdi. Then Master Mosley will present his topic at 6:05 p.m. And then we have another panel discussion for 20 minutes. And finally, closing remarks. So if you have any question, you can write your question in the Q&A box, or just raise your hand by clicking raise hand icon during panel discussion period. So now I will give the floor for our chairman, Dr. Laith Al-Hadidi, to introduce the CEM department. So Dr. Laith, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone.
Can you see this screen, vision strategy?
Yes, we do.
Yes, yeah. So thank you, Dr. Awsan, for the brief introduction. And really, I'm on the behalf of the department, the Construction Engineering and Management Department, I would like to thank all our panelists, especially the outsiders of our department, also Mr. Rusty Mosley, Dr. Eyad, and Dr. Ghamdi, and also our beloved Professor Dr. Ali Shash. And also I would like to thank all attendees who are attending this forum. I don't want to take much time of you, but in almost 5 minutes, maybe I would like to share with you some of the thoughts about the construction, or how to envision the future of the construction in the coming, I would say, 10 to 15 years, if not maybe less than this. We can envision how it would look like. At the same time, we at the department are trying to cope with this change. So we are moving from being a educational service provider. We want to be a main partner and contributor into the economic growth of the Saudi Arabia. Also, we would like to focus onto the knowledge industry and value creation in the knowledge industry. And that would be manifested by research, curriculum, training programs. All of these are consultations as well. All of these are a byproduct, but the main focus here for us is to focus on the value creation in the knowledge industry. In our curriculum, we look into so many ingredients, and based on the body of knowledge that we are thinking to revise our curriculum towards, those are mainly some of the attributes that we would like to focus on. And we believe that the human capital in the construction industry would be really valuable to be contribute into those directions. So of course, areas related to project management, life cycle costing, law and contract administrations, material labor methods, those are planning and scheduling, cost management. It has been for a long time, and it will remain for the coming few years to come, or few decades. But maybe the reform or the outfit of those attributes would be a little bit different, will be more digitalized, more agile, more predictive, rather than reactive mode. So it will be the same, but the approach would be a little bit distinct than the traditional way that we think of. Additionally, we can say that the manufacturing industry in general was in a fast, rapid recycling or turmoil over the last 20, 30 years. Yet when it comes to the construction, the cycle of change is a little bit slower. And let's say that over the last 100 years, the structure or the building itself, it's more or less what we have nowadays. And but since the fourth industrial revolution, this has been providing a platform, a digital platform, that we think that the construction can be take benefit of. So ideas that we may think of related to labor, machine, hybrid productivity, modular construction, and offsite manufacturing, we think that the Saudi industry would be much interested in. Building information modeling and 3D printing materials and circularity. And in the coming, in the coming talks, we will literally try to touch upon those some of those topics and try to inject, especially the talk of Dr. Eyad. He's going to talk about the digital transformations. Before that, Dr. Ali Shash will be talking about the Saudi code, and Dr. Al-Ghamdi, we're going to talk about how would be the value that is to have a centralized value engineering practices to the construction industry as a whole. And Mr. Mosley also will going to address some, enlighten us about the potential of growth on contracts management and claims disputes. Maybe I will stop at this. Don't want to take more time, and maybe I will start with the first speaker with us. And again, a very big thank you for all our panelists and our guests. Dr. Ali Shash would be the first to start, and the floor is for you, Dr. Ali.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Laith. Let me just upload the presentation, and then we can take it from there. Okay. Well, first of all, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really pleased to be the first speaker in this forum. I'm going to talk about something that it is really a lot of people are asking about this. What is the building code? How we are going to use the building code? How is it going to affect? So to answer all of those questions is just to give you some kind of an overview. I'm talking about a subject that usually I give it in maybe 4-day forum, but today I'm going to make it in 30 minutes. So bear with me but I'm trying, all what I'm going to try is just to tell you what is a code, how we define a code, what is the code rationale, or why do we need the code, and what is the code intent, what is the code content, and how the code is administered. So those are the questions that I'm trying to address today, and I'm trying to find an answer for them. And the first thing I want to say about the code, what is a code? It is a specification. And we know what is a specification, but the code as a specification is a specification. A specification by itself is enforced in one building, for instance. However, when we turn it into a code, then it is when we turn it to be applied across all the buildings, then it's becoming like a code. So a specification enforced on all building project in a region. This is a code. And if we look at the specification itself, the way that it is defined, it's a description of a product or a method. Or a specification is a precise statement because it's coming from the word describe. And a specification is a precise statement describing the characteristic of a particular item. And this description is coming into there are four different types of specifications. The first one is called the descriptive specifications. And in this, defines the exact properties of material and method of installations. So basically, it's a detailed description of whatever you want, either the product or the method. The second one is the performance specification. In the performance specification, all what it needs is just to specify in detail what kind of performance that you are requiring from a certain product. However, this method, that means it will require some kind of mechanism in order to test or to verify the final performance of the manufactured product. And then the third method for a specification is called the reference specification. And basically, when we're talking about reference specification, we're referring to something that it is related to process to be in accordance with an established standard, just like STM or other standards that are available. The last method for a specification, and those are found in all technical specifications for any building. It's called property or brand name. And basically, it's just specifying an actual brand name, model number, or other property information. Now, if you look at the book of the code, in the book of the code or in the codes, all the codes, you will find the descriptive specifications, the performance specifications, and the reference specification, but you will not find the property or what you call it as proprietary type of specification. So the specification, you can find a full description of a certain product or a certain procedures. You can find also some reference, and some of them they go for some kind of performance. There are a lot of references, and it links a lot of organizations, just like SASO, for instance, ASTM, a lot of specification providers or producers. The other thing, why do we need the building code? In order to understand the necessity for the code, we have to look at whatever happened in the past. In the past, if we look at the past and we look at the first code, that well-known code, established written code, we go back again to 1772 during Hammurabi. The Code of Hammurabi carried the first written code. And look at those codes. All of it is just to protect the tenants from any kind of a building, so the built environment. So in Hammurabi, the Code of Hammurabi stipulated that parapets must be constructed on all houses to prevent people from falling off. So basically, you can see the main reason, and you can see in the picture, especially for our students, what we mean by parapet. This is the parapet wall, and it is Hammurabi enforced this requirement in all housing during his period of time in order to protect the people from falling off the roof, for instance. The other thing, you look at it, it is weird to see something like this, but it was part of the code. If a builder builds a house for someone and does not construct it properly, and the house which he built falls in and kills its owner, then that builder shall be put to death. So this is, again, it's a code. It was established. That was in 1772 before Christ. We're talking about maybe 4,000 years ago. Now, you can look at the time when they started, for instance, in France, in the Second Empire, 1852 to 1870, this is what you can see. A great block of apartments were erected, and the height of buildings was limited by law to 5 or 6 stories at most. With all of those kind of information that's established for the building of the current building code, and all of it, you can see what the reasons behind it. You can see the first thing that you can see as a reason for all of those kind of codes, it happens as a consequences of a lot of events. One of the events, for instance, in the United Kingdom, in England, this is 1212. This is what they call it as the Great Fire of Southwark. So this is the first thing that ever happened. And in this incident by itself, there were like 3,000 people were killed because of this fire. And it started in one building, and it spread all over London, and especially over London Bridge. Now people are thinking, how about London Bridge? What happened on London Bridge because of this fire? In London Bridge, it's built with stone and everything. But at that period of time, people were having stores made of wood on the sides of the bridge. So when the flame started in Southwark Cathedral Church, and it burned completely, but it's extended to London Bridge. And then because of the wind, it went to the other side of the bridge. And people were coming from the north in order to help the people in Southwark. And they were trapped between two fires, fire from the front and fire from the back. And that caused the death. And that's the total of 3,000, estimated to be 3,000 people who were killed in that incident. So you can see, this is the first incident. The second incident in London, again, it happened in 1666. This is what they call it as the Great Fire of London. And it spread, and it started in a bakery store. And it took half of London, or maybe half of the houses in London at that time. And because of that, the people start thinking, okay, how about in the rebuilding of London, they had an act. and in the same year. Okay. The act regulated the rebuilding of the city, required housing, for instance, to have some fire resistant capacity. And this is, until now, this is what we are requiring. We have to have in every house some kind of fire resistant capacity, and authorize the City of London Corporation to reopen and widen the roads. Why? Because they wanted some kind of space for people for emergency bases. So because of that, then the laws of the Indies were passed in 1680 by the Spanish crown, and this is just to spread it all over their empire. Because of this incident, then people start to think about how we are going to protect the people from the built environment. So the first systematic national building standard in England, for instance, was established with the London Building Act in 1844. Now we are getting very close right now in 1844. Among the provisions, there are a lot of provisions in that Building Act. So those provisions, builders were required to give the district surveyor 2 days notice before building. So they are asking, whenever you want to build, you have to come to the building surveyor in order to get the permission, or to give them a notice there so they can start their inspection. Regulation regarding the thickness of wall. Here we started to look at a lot of things that are related to the built environment. Thickness of wall, height of room, the material used in repair. Okay. In placing the design of chimneys and fireplaces, drains were to be enforced. So those are the most important things that are related to the building. It starts to emerge as a source of a building code. Then the Metropolitan Building Office was formed to regulate the construction and use building throughout London. So surveyors were empowered to enforce building regulations, which sought to improve the standard of houses. And that was the main purpose of it, is to improve the standard of houses and business premises, and to regulate activity that might threaten public health. Now we start looking at things to protect the properties, and at the same time to protect the public from the threats of the built environment. In 1855, the assets, powers, and responsibility of the office has been transferred to the Metropolitan Board of Works. So this is in England. Let's see what happened in the United States. Again, because of all of those, because they are most of the people in the United States at that time, mostly immigrants. So they brought with them some kind of experience. And you can see it started in 1625. They start to address safety, fire safety, and a specified material for roof covering. So they brought with them from Europe some of the previous history that has been causing a lot of agony to a lot of population. So for that reason, they brought it with them to the United States, and they start thinking in how to address the fire safety. They were concerned only about fire because it is the one that was threatening the life of a lot of people. In 1630, for instance, in Boston, outlawed chimneys made of wood, okay, and thatch roof covering, any kind of covering like straws that are forbidden. So those are the sources, because they thought those are the material that is easy to cause fire. And then in the late 1770, for instance, like President Washington, for instance, recommended that height and area limitation be imposed on wood frame buildings. So start people thinking how to improve their safety against those buildings. Those are the rationale. Look, in 1780, 1908, the first known formal building code was written in the United States, but was in German. But that drove a lot of other cities began to establishing their own building codes in 1800. In 1865, in New Orleans was the first city to enact a law requiring inspection of public places. The National Board for Fire Underwriters published its recommended National Building Code in 1905. The start of the official building code was in 1905. In 1915, the world's first model code organization was established to provide forum for exchange of ideas. In 1973, the American AIA called, or the American Institute of Architects, called for one code to be used throughout the United States. So you can see how it is established. But there was, again, you can see why the mentality of people thinking about how can we prevent, how can we save people from fire? There is another fire that was happened in 1859 in Baltimore in the United States. So that it called the Great Fire, occurred in February 1904. Subsequently, changes were made to match other cities. In 1904, this is in Baltimore, the Handbook of Baltimore City Building Laws was published. It served as the building code for 4 years, and after that, a formal building code was drafted and eventually adopted in 1908. The structural failure, this is really serious. When I read it at the beginning, I thought, wow, now we are moving from the threat of fire. We are coming to the threat of the structure itself. Look at this. This is an incident happened in Boston in 1919. This is a company that has, they call it the Great Molasses Flood. There was a big tank containing more than 2 million gallons of molasses. The tank collapsed, and all the molasses were flooding Boston. And you can see to the right, this is the news at that time. Molasses tank explosion injures 50 and kills 11. Immediately, because of this incident, okay? US citizens and states soon began requiring sign off by registered professional engineers for the plans of major buildings. So you can see, it's just like, what is happening? How can we protect ourselves from this built environment? Here is the first structural failure that caused this kind of requirement. And the last one, and this was very massive in New York in 1911. This is what they call it as the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. It went into fire, killing 146 out of 500 employees. This is a huge number of people killed in that incident. And most of those were women and girls. So they were working, and one of the basic things that was happened, most of the evacuating doorways were locked because the owner locked it, fearing the employee to steal anything from the company, and that was the incident that killed about 146 people out of 500. So people thought about it, said, yeah, we have to do something. We have faced a lot of things. We have faced London fire, and then the Great Fire in '66, and then New York Triangle Fire, 1911. So they thought about life safety, and everybody was saying, yes, it's life safety. However, now we talked about a lot of things that related to fire, and we saw one incident for a structure. But right now, the development of the built environment is changing and rapidly changing. And now we can see that there are a lot of high-rise building. There are a lot of different designs, so there must be something that to be done in order to protect also the people. So the more system that it is built, the more code is issued. Now we have to protect people against the structure. Also, there must be something because now buildings are containing more people than before. So we have to look at the means of egress. The other thing that also is becoming evidence is the energy conservation. How about the interior impact? The other thing that it's becoming very important, and we are concerned about that, is accessibility. And we are saying accessibility, this is where you are talking about the handicap. And one of the conditions is to say that every aspect in any building, it should be accessible to anyone, including handicap. And you can see there are a lot of other different building systems that are emerging every day and every week. We have a new system that is going to be included in the building itself. For that reason, this is the intent of the code. And you can see what is the intent of the code. The purpose of the code is to establish the minimum requirements to provide a reasonable level of safety, public health, and general welfare. This is the most important. In addition to this, it is to provide a reasonable level of safety to firefighters and emergency responders during emergency operation. So you can see those are the most important intent of the code. In the first one, when we are saying reasonable level of safety, public health, and general welfare, then we are talking about how we are going to achieve it. We have to look at the structural strength, means of egress facilities, stability, sanitation, adequate light and ventilation. This is all talking about the internal environment, energy conservation, and safety to life and property from fire and other hazard attributed to the built environment. So this is the thrust. This is the main intent of the building code, is the protection of the human, the users or the tenant of those built environments. Now, we look, it started maybe with like 4 or 5 pages in 80s in building code. Right now it is in thousands, and it is in volumes, different volumes. For instance, in Saudi building code, we have the general building code, and then we have the structural. In the structural, we have like 6: loading and forces, construction, soil and foundations, concrete structures, masonry structures, steel structures. And then we have one about the electrical code, mechanical code, energy conservation, the one for the non-residential and one for residential, plumbing code, private sewage code, fire code, existing building codes, green construction code, residential building code, and then you have residential building code V2. So you can see how it's becoming. Most of those maybe were like 1 page in, or maybe 1 section in previous codes. And because of the emergent and becoming more important, they were extracted, and then they say, this is a volume that to cover that particular issue, you can see. So in the Saudi building code, this is, I'm gonna just make some kind of an overview of the Saudi building code, the general one, which is SBC 201. In the 201, you can see how this, what the content of this. The first 1 and 2 is just an administration and definitions. The 3.
Ali, you have 5 minutes to finish.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I will go as, I'll just finish this, and then the content I'll explain it in another presentation maybe. Use and occupancy classification. See, this is very important to you to say why the use and occupancy classification is very important, especially if you go to fire resistance and protection requirement. Those are the two things that will determine the basis for determining the heights of the building and the area that to be built. So it is a function of both. The area and the height and the number of stories in a building is dependent on the use and occupancy classification, and also it depends on the what we call it as the fire resistance and protection requirements. So those are the two things that are going to determine the size of the building. Either you're talking about vertical or horizontal, or the total capacity, or the total area. And then the special requirements for, you can see 4 and 31, they're talking about special requirement for specific occupancies or elements, height and area limitations based on the type of construction. So the type of construction also plays a major role with the use and occupancy in order to determine the size,
My apologies.
the
I couldn't hear what you said.
the height of the
Could you
building,
say that again?
the height of the building, as well as the area of the building. You can see, for instance, in 7.9 is fire resistance and protection. In number 10, it's requirements for evacuation. This is very important, is the means of egress, how you are going to evacuate in case of danger, in case of fire, in case of anything that might happen within the building itself. Then you can see in 11, chapter 11, it's talk about specific requirements to allow use and access to building for persons with disabilities. So this is accessibility. This is the word of accessibility is discussed completely in one full chapter. Then you have 12, 13, 27, 30, it's the building systems. And here you are gonna go into the lighting, the HVAC, the plumbing fixtures, the elevators, and everything that are related to the building systems. In 14 to 26, you are talking about the structural components. Now, this is a structural component will be combined with the other published structure codes. For instance, like the 6 codes that we have talked about in the previous screen. So they are linked to each other. Then you can go, for instance, in 32, talking about the encroachment outside the property of lines. Again, this is just to regulate how much you can go out of the property line. And then this is another issue for the code, is also protecting the life of the people who are working in the construction site. So they put a lot of safeguards during construction, how to make the construction site as safe as possible. Then we have the reference standards. Those are the things that are presented in SPC 201. There is also another code that is very important, which is called the fire code, which is 801, and they are coinciding very well with the 201. And you can see, for instance, in 201, SPC 201 and SPC 208, in the first 2 columns, you can see how the overlap between them. I'll go very quick in the last. I don't want to go over this. I will go directly to how the code is administered. Dr. Awsan, just like 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then I'll be done. Yeah. In the code administration, how to administer the code application here in Saudi Arabia, we have several entities that are responsible for the building code. We have the Saudi Building Code National Committee, and those are the governance. They are just setting the policies and setting the codes. The Ministry of Municipalities and Rural Affairs, it is the main entity that is responsible for the application of the building code, and with the Ministry of Municipalities, the Ministry of Interior, represented by the Civil Defense, and also the Ministry of Energy, and also the Saudi Standards Metrology and Quality Organization. Those are the regulators. And then we have the Board of Avil, because if there is anything that need to be the Board of Appeal, if there is anything that need to be discussed, there is a court to facilitate between the users and the regulators. Now, if we look at those 5, you can see the activities. What happened? Well, you can see, for instance, like the official, like MOMRA, the Civil Defense, and the Ministry of Energy. Their responsibility comes during the preparation of the design, and also during the construction, and even during the execution of the project or the occupancy of the project. So you can see here is to inspect the site, inspect the facilities during operation, permit, and certification. This is for the MOMRA CD. And for the Saudi Building Code, they have a lot of function. Update building code periodically. So this code is updated as per the policy every 5 years. Training and certification for inspectors, training and certification for AEs, resolve disputes and litigations, interpretation of matters. And then you can see the first one is when we are talking about the AE. What is his function? His function is to provide, is to produce project documents in compliance with the SPC. And then you have also the function of the builder is to build the project as described in the project document that's been approved by the municipality or by the municipality. And then he has to have to do some kind of safeguard during in the sites. Users as an owner during the operation to operate the facility has been given the permit. So there is an occupancy permit. You cannot deviate from that. You have to keep it. If there is a change, then there is a penalty for it. If there isn't a change for the occupancy, then there is a change also for the policies. So it has to also to maintain the facilities. And the way that it is done, you can see, first of all, the AE and the owner, and basically the AE is preparing the documents in accordance, and he has to make sure that it is meeting or complying with the requirements of the Saudi Building Code. All of the documents.
Try to finish within 2 minutes.
Yes, I will. Okay. So you can see at the end of once the architect or the consultant is finished and he's convinced that he finished from the design with all the requirements in accordance to the Saudi Building Code, he submitted it for construction permit. At this point of time, when it is submitted to the MOMRA, for instance, then there will be what we call it as plan inspectors. And those are certified engineers by the Saudi Building Code in order to do the inspection or the examination of the submitted project documents and to make sure that, or to evaluate if they are or not complying with the building code. If it is not, then they will put their comments and report it and return it back to the owner with comments. If it is approved, then they will stamp the whole documents saying it's comply with the building code, and they approve the construction. And there is another thing that during the construction there are a lot of residential and building code inspectors. Residential inspectors, they are specialized only in residential buildings, and then you have building inspectors, they are for non-residential. And during this period of time, the inspectors are also certified by the Saudi Building Code. Those inspectors, they have to go to the construction site to make sure that the contractor is building the facility in accordance to the approved project documents. And at the end of this phase, they come to the occupancy certification, which is issued by MOMRA and the Civil Defense. Now, during this period of time, during the operation or during the life cycle of the building, it goes through a lot of changes. One of which is the maintenance, and the other one, there are some repairs. There are some repairs, they are not required to be reported to the municipality. Some of the major repairs, they have to go through the same cycle. They have to provide the drawings, then it has to be approved to see if they are meeting the Saudi building code or not. And one of the things that also the civil defense is making some kind of inspection, periodical inspection to all those buildings in order to see if the occupancy is not altered. If it is altered by any means, then that's mean there is some kind of penalty. And because any owner of a property wants to change the occupancy, he has to apply for it, because each occupancy has a different risk factor. And if the risk factor of the change or the altered buildings to another higher risk, then they are required to do some more construction. If it is less, then there will be no problem in converting or the occupancy. Then finally, at the end, you can see still you have the residential and building inspector working in there. And then finally, you can go for the demolition permit. And this is also will require contractors, and you will have inspectors in order to do all of this. And I'm sorry if I've taken more time. Thank you for your patience. The subject, as I told you, I covered this subject in 4-day workshop. I tried to make it in 30 minutes as fast as I can. I hope that I have added a little bit of information to you, and I'll be more than happy to answer any question. But unfortunately, I have to go. I have a class, and I will not be in the panel. I have a class in 20 minutes. But I don't know about the organizer, if they are going to allow anybody to make to raise a question at this point, or they are going to say that's it.
Okay, Dr. Ali, thank you first. Thank you for the informative presentation. Yes, you can have 5 minutes for questions because you will be not able to come in discussion, panel discussion. Yes. So we have in Q&A box, we have 2 questions or 1 question, you can see. The first one, what are the limitations of SBC in terms energy conservation in residential building?
Can you say that again, Dr. Awsan?
Yeah, what are the limitations of SBC in terms energy conservation in residential buildings?
Well, the limitation is to meet a certain standard for R and U values. Those are the measure of the heat loss. Those are the limitation. I don't recall what is the exact number for the R values. I think it's about 1.69. Don't quote me on this. Maybe 1.63 or 1.65. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Another question, does SBC over design guidance for constructional components?
You see, this is the beauty of the Saudi building code. A lot of people think that it is going to be adding, it will add a little bit of cost here and there, but at the same time, it will have, it will give the owner whatever they want. That means they are going to buy something that it is going to last for longer time without any kind of problem. We know that there are some problems that we are facing, and the most important part is you are getting something that you are going to feel secure whenever you are using that building. This is the most important part. It is really very important to live in a building that you are feeling like you are safe and secure from having this building this building has an effect on your life or in your safety and the safety of your beloved children or family. It is very essential. So we're not talking about it is going to oversize. No, it is not. Their requirement is the minimum requirements. Any other
Thank you,
question?
Dr. Ali. Thank you again for the nice
You're welcome.
presentation.
You're welcome.
Inshallah, we will see you in the coming event regarding the Saudi building code.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you.
Assalam. Now the second speaker is Dr. Eyad. Dr. Eyad will give us a talk on digital transformation in construction. The future is now. So Dr. Eyad, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Awsan. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Doctor, we can see.
Okay, so Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good day, everyone. Thanks to my beloved university, the Construction Management and Engineering Department, Dr. Laith, Dr. Awsan, and BMI KSA for giving me this opportunity to present here before you. In my presentation today, I will focus on the role of the digital transformation and the project management profession and supporting the time and age that we are living in and the Vision 2030 of Saudi Arabia. We are living today in the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the realization of Vision 2030. Vision 2030, launched in April 2016, aims at fundamentally reforming the Saudi economy and society. As some of you might know, there are three main pillars or themes within the Vision 2030, starting by creating an ambitious nation with a thriving economy and vibrant society. Each theme or each pillar within the Vision 2030 has several programs, as you can see here. Okay, and these programs has several actually projects associated with them. The realization of these programs have been created with or have been associated with several giga and sometimes tera projects, talking about, for example, NEO, the Red Sea, Qiddiya, Roshan, and you know the list goes on, talking about King Salman Park and the Green Riyadh, King Salman Energy Park. Each one of these projects is a huge project that requires different skill sets. So if we look at sample of these projects, which what we discuss about, and we look at their ambitious scope, the base, and the magnitude that it has been, executed in, we will see that we cannot go and follow the same way that we used to follow in the traditional projects. Harvard Business Review has recognized that we are actually in an era of a project, a new era of a project where the whole future of work is project-based. And we will talk about this, inshallah, later on. But we are moving away from just the status quo or the normal standard operation into living into a project-based. This, of course, has created or has mandated what is called the project economy. So the definition of the project economy is where people have the skills and capability to take the ideas and to convert the ideas and the visions into reality. And this is what we need as living within Saudi Arabia and supporting the Vision 2030. The vision is there. It requires different skill sets and different know-how and way of conduct in order for us to realize this vision. So the idea of this vision, so the idea of the project economy is it helps in realizing the value or maximizing the value for the stakeholders by completing the project, delivering the products, and delivering the final outcome in alignment with the value stream and the stakeholder expectation. So the new way is by deploying digital transformation, innovation, collaboration, and agility. Working in the normal waterfall model might not be the best fit for today's project. So what we want actually is to look at our projects as the new norm or the new norm of working. So previously, the project is a short-term task to create a certain product where it will be handed over to operation, and then operation will be the permanent, norm of taking this project to the next level. However, now it's being shifted. So now we have a lot of projects where projects are created almost on every day. And alhamdulillah, with the Vision 2030, we see the announcement of a new project almost on a, on a more frequently basis than what we used to do. And the normal way of working now is not the overall agile and traditional methodology, where we start from the plan, create, review, and then we go and execute. Okay, so the overall program, when we talk about the Vision 2030, we talk about the associated program, and then we are talking about the project or the smaller project within the program. So the portfolio, the program, and the projects has to go in harmony and has to be executed in a way that will help in maximizing the value for the stakeholders of these projects, while maintaining the agility, the collaboration, and the innovation. And this is where we need to have, we strike a balance between the traditional way or the waterfall way and the new way, which is the agile way. And as you can see here in the agile way, is that we divide the project into smaller projects, or what they call sprints, where the people will go and try to collaborate in a faster way, where if God forbid there is a failure, they fail fast and they fail cheap. So instead of going through the whole progress from the engineering, the procurement and construction, and all the way to the testing, where they go and come and certify if this project is meeting the requirement of the stakeholders or not. Now we are dividing the work breakdown structure into smaller projects or smaller sprints. Each sprint can goes from months into days, actually, where you can have the smaller sprint into days. You can go, you can learn, you can show this to the stakeholders, give their feedback, and then adjust accordingly. So the need for managing all of these projects, and as you can see, we have mega, giga, and tera projects, and this of course will require us to go and to hire people from around the globe to help in executing our projects. And so this has mandated a new way of dealing with our engineering, procurement, and construction, or what they call it EPC X.0, where we need to unify the engineering and project execution in the whole life cycle of the project, starting from the front-end engineering documents, going into the setup, the planning, the material cataloging, the procurement, the requisition, the inventory, the construction, the fabrication, the inspection, all the way into the handover and the operation. How we will do that is by deploying the digital transformation and the Industry 4.0 technologies, where we will have a unified platform that will help in exchanging the information across the different teams and the different stakeholders that are dealing with this project. So this is where the concept of the digital twin have been invented. So the digital twin is a physical or a digital representation of the physical reality. It can start from the moment we start with our project, from the inception all the way until the retirement of our assets, regardless how it is. Is it a building? Is it a plant? Is it a car? Is it whatever kind of an asset that we are trying to build? we will have a digital representation that will help us to, first of all, to coordinate, you know, the activities and the exchange of information between the global team. You know, in my humble opinion, we have worked, for example, with EPCs, some of them from the Far East, some of them from Europe, and each one of them has different way of presenting their progress, reporting their progress, the codes, the naming convention, and so on and so forth. What Dr. Ali mentioned is about the standardization of the Saudi code, for example. Here, we are talking about also similar code where we agree within the digital twin on a naming convention or a nomenclature that will be used across. So when we go and when we exchange information, it will not be mismatched information, or we will not have a problem in aligning or exchanging the different information between one EPC or another, or one stakeholders or another. It will be also a unified tool that will be used for process design, process simulation, and most importantly for the e-review. So it will be the same tool that will be used for electronically reviewing the progress. And with the emergence of the virtual reality, augmented reality, and the mixed reality, now end users can actually wear their virtual reality goggles, and they can move into the asset before even it's been built. You can see the security clearance. You can review, you know, the different standards, the different classification. You can agree even on the material of the construction and so on and so forth. And once you do that, you can go and using this standard asset framework that have been built, you can go ahead with your enterprise resource planning, with the material cataloging, with the material acquisition, and using it for the inventory and for the optimization. All of this, of course, is done in a secure standard data integration and connection throughout the phases of the project, all the way to the handover. Now, if you are building a plant, for example, you can use the same model for training your operators to help them in taking over the plant, and instead of working and acting on the actual asset, they will be working on the virtual or the digital representation of that asset using the virtual reality and the mixed reality, where they can learn how to operate the asset in a much secure manner. Then this will be handed over. You know, there are several initiatives and standards that have been created, like the CEFOS, for example, where you hand over your project all the way to the operators or the final end user of the asset, where the same model can be used now for operation and maintenance. So you can augment it with real-time data on that will represent the asset health, and then you can use it also for doing predictive maintenance using the artificial intelligence and the cognitive analysis. Of course, this you know, the digital twin concept, there are different dimensions depending on the type of project and the basis or the phase that you are in within the project. So within the construction, the 3D model, or there are seven dimensions. We call it the 7D digital twin, where the 3D model will be used to visualize the assets, and you know, you can use it for schedule management, where you can do a simulation of the construction. You can do clash analysis. And of course, once you look at, you know, the different kind of scheduling, you can also do it for doing construction sequence. With that, you can also, it will help you also to do cost simulation and estimation. So the same 3D model, once you do it, you do the clash analysis, the schedule management, the construction sequencing. You can also use it for using the construction material, and it will help you to estimate the costs given based on the material selected, the tasks needed for building. You can use it even for crane maneuvering, different type of game sequencing and scenarios, so that you can select the best cost, the best schedule for building your assets. In addition, it can be used for the construction or the execution management, where you can use it for the project safety. For example, you can use the CCTVs or the drones to see the workers, and if there is any worker, for example, who is not wearing their PPE or safety shoes or whatever, the system will highlight that for you. In addition, it will be also used for taking videos of the actual construction, and then the actual construction picture can be overlaid on the 3D model, and it can give you a better representation of the progress within your construction. So instead of relying on the EPC contractor, who will highlight, for example, 30, 40, or 50%, you can actually overlay the picture from the actual construction on the 3D model, and it will be giving you a better representation of the progress of your project. In addition, of course, it will be used for scope alignment and the contract management, the e-review, as I mentioned in my previous slide. Now, when you hand it over to the operation, the dimension differs here. We can use the 3D model for the simulation, where you can, for example, do things within the digital twin that you cannot do within the actual plant, or you can do simulation of different operating conditions and see how the actual plant will react. In addition, you can use it for asset performance. So, for example, the operator can walk within his goggles or HoloLens, where they can actually evaluate the asset health by just looking at the real-time data from within the asset, and can give them some predictive analysis of the performance and the asset health. The 3D model also can, or the digital twin can be used for the process safety, where you can automate the whole end-to-end process safety, whether it's operation risk management, the e-work permitting, the lockout tagout, and you can do all of this simulation also for the scheduling and the clashes from within the digital twin. Can be also used for environmental management, where the operator can monitor their level of compliance for their regularity compliance, whether from emission, air quality, water quality, and solid waste. Last but not least, it's also the digital twin is used for the supply chain or the whole value chain automation, where you can optimize the inventory and minimize the overstocking or understocking of any type of sparing and spare management. Now, since most of the projects that we are working with within Vision 2030 are actually construction or building projects, so the PIM has emerged, as Dr. Laith alluded to at the beginning, or the building information management. 7-dimensional digital twin have emerged now as a priority, where it will include the same dimension within the construction. However, it focuses on the sustainability and the energy analysis. So the same digital twin can highlight what are the areas within the building or within the city, the smart city, that are consuming the most energy, and it will give you some prediction on how can you optimize these energies, or what are the things that you need to do so that you can meet the energy requirements of your building. Same goes with the maintenance and management. Now the building, the smart building or the smart cities will be already connected with the predictive maintenance algorithms that will help you and proactively identify the anomalies and try to provide recommendation or corrective root causes and corrective action to help in overcoming these issues within the building or within the cities. Of course, dealing with projects in such magnitude is not an easy task. So this is where the project management profession and the project management office has emerged as a priority. Mainly the project management office is a way of coordinating the different components, the different stakeholders, the three pillars of the project, the quality, the scope, and the cost, and making use of the best practices of the project management profession in maintaining the scope and the cost and achieving the highest quality of the project. So the value realization of the vision and the value realization of these programs and projects to the stakeholders has to be managed by a project management office, and because having a good project manager, not necessarily he will be able to manage all of these moving parts, and this is where the project management office comes to help the project manager in achieving their objective. Of course, there are different types of project management offices. There are the supportive, the controlling, and the directive, depending on the type of the project and depending on the regulations within the projects. Different type of the project management office might be adopted to help in supporting these projects. Now, a project management institute, and especially the KSA sub-chapter, is playing a major role in improving the skill sets or upskilling the Saudi talent to support these projects. So I'm proud to say that the PMI KSA chapter is among the most active chapters worldwide. We have we have reached 3,000 different members across Saudi Arabia. We have the Eastern, Western, Central region, and we have so many of them are certified, not only in PMP or the project management professional certification, but now we are seeing a large number of people are certified in the Agile discipline, the portfolio and the program management, the risk management, and the list goes on and on. And this is where the Project Management Institute and KSA chapter can help for those who are interested in joining and improving their leadership, communication, and the project management skills. Please join us. We are very friendly society where I'm really proud to be a member of, where they are actually sharing knowledge and giving or going the extra mile, especially for the young talent, to help them and being skilled up to match the requirement of these great projects and helping in realizing the Vision 2030. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much again, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Eyad, for the excellent presentation. So please, if you have any question, you can write your question in the Q&A box or just raise your hand. Dr. Eyad, we have two questions here.
Sure.
The first one is, what is the chance of adapting building information modeling technology in the construction industry in Saudi Arabia? And what are the main challenges in your point of view?
Actually, to my knowledge, several projects have already implemented the BIM and the digital twin concept. So When I used to work in Saudi Aramco, I know maybe 4 or 5 projects of the new projects started from day one with PIM, and it used it from end to end. So the PIM is being adopted within Saudi Arabia. I know that a lot of the project, the mega project, I think the Red Sea and NEOM and the other projects, they have already, don't quote me on this, but this is what I know, that they have already deployed the PIM technology. Now, the challenges is that it might be relatively new to some of the smaller contractors, but the majority of the big contractors have already deployed the PIM, and I think it's the way to go. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, Dr. Eyad. Another question: what is a real example implemented for construction 7D digital twin?
So I think, again, maybe I will rely on my experience within Saudi Aramco. The majority of Saudi Aramco construction, the new projects within the plants, are following the 7D, where mainly what they are looking for is that they build a 3D model, and then they associate it with the cost and the schedule. So the same 3D model, you can use it, and you can do a simulation of the different routes within the plant, the crane maneuvering, the simulation of the crane maneuvering, what are the best routes, and even the steps within building the plant itself. It has been simulated, and then they do the clash analysis, and based on that, they select the best route or the best construction sequences, if you wish. Also, a lot of projects have been deploying now the contractor safety, where they are using the CCTV and the drones for making sure that all the contractors and the workers are safe, and they are following the safety procedure and the work permitting procedure within the plant. And of course, it's used for the e-review. So instead of going and deploying or doing the e-review by taking the review team and let them traveling to the EPC contractor office, now it's all they have a global access, and they can just look at the 3D model, and then based on that they will do the review and put their comment, and they have the automated closure of their comment from within the platform itself.
Another question: can BMO service outsourced for supportive role?
That's a very good question. Yes, so the BMO, you can actually there are a lot of what they call a project management contractor, or PMC. A lot of contractors, they are just focusing on taking so the project team will outsource the PMO to those experts who have a lot of experience in the PMO function, and then they will act as a supporter to the project management team. So if you don't have the right individuals, or you don't want to hire the individuals to support the PMO, you can also outsource the PMC consult, or PMC project management consultant, or PMO to an outside contractor.
Another one: what is the best type of BMO in the industry?
Well, I will answer the normal consultant answer, which is it depends. So depending on the type of a project, as I mentioned, is that some of the projects will require directive. So I would say that it depends on the project team itself. So if you have a strong project management team who are executing the project, then all what you need is a supportive PMO that can help this project team within the tedious and the reporting or whatever tasks that are not really adding value to the team. However, if you have a junior team where they are missing actually the experience within project management, then you will need a director, which is more of a controlling and managing team that can take care of the project, the scope, and the cost. So it depends on the situation, depends on the strength of the project management team, also the complexity of the project. So it's not one solution fits all. The answer is it depends.
Thank you, Dr. Eyad. Wallah, we have many questions. To the best of your knowledge, Dr. Eyad, what are the major challenges for implementing BIM in Saudi Arabia?
The challenge of implementing what?
Building information model.
So again, the building information management is like the Saudi building code. It's a requirement. Now there are some technologies that can be used to automate or to comply or to conform with the BIM. So to the best of my knowledge is that the lack of the cloud service provider and the NCA requirement of having or hosting all of the confidential information within Saudi Arabia might be a challenge. But this is now going away with the new cloud service provider coming and coming fast to Saudi Arabia. So that this challenge is being mitigated by this.
Do you recommend implementing digital twin in a brownfield project?
Indeed, actually, in our project, in our activities, we have built or deployed the digital twin in greenfield, brownfield, and in construction. So it's not sorry, in building. So the 3D, all these digital twin that you see, each one of them have been implemented. Now the challenges in the implementation might differ. So if you have an old or an aging asset or a plant, building the 3D model itself is a challenge. Finding the data, the associated data, the PNIDs, the inspection, the isolation diagrams and whatnot, this might be a challenge for an aging asset. However, for a new asset, all of this information usually is digitized. So it's much easier to build for the brownfield that are 5 or up to 10 years old, but it might be a challenge for the aging assets. But yes, indeed, it is doable, and now with the technology, with the laser scanning and the digitization tool, it's becoming much easier than ever before.
The last question, Dr. Eyad.
Sure.
Yeah. How to assess my company in project management practices?
Actually, this is an excellent question. So there are actually certain assessment that and guidelines that can be provided. So if you want to do it internally, or you can outsource it, you can hire an external assessor, where they will come and they will look at your existing practices and the way you are handling the project, and then they will give you a maturity level of where you are when it comes to the project management. Or of course, if you want to do it the hard way, you have to do it from within, where you will go and you will evaluate. But that might be, if you don't have experienced people, it might be a lengthy process.
Thank you, Dr. Eyad, for the informative discussion. So by this, we end the panel discussion. We have 10-minute break. Then we will start the second session. So
it's my pleasure. Thank you very much. I hope I added value. Thank you very much.
Salam. Okay, we will start the third presentation. So the
Okay.
third presentation will be delivered by Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghamdi. Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghamdi will give us a talk on improving the value of Saudi construction project. So the floor is yours, Dr.
Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Can you see the slides, please?
Yes, we can see it.
Excellent. طيب, I would like to thank you, Dr. Awsan, Dr. Laith, everyone for attending this presentation. I'd like to thank the previous presenters for the excellent work that they did, very informative presentations. For me, I'll do something a little bit more focused because I was planning to do the functions of Saudi Aramco Project Management Office Department, and due to time limitations and the need to have more material, I thought of making it more focused. And when I heard the presentations of the previous presenters, I was thankful for doing that because they covered a decent stuff related to PMO. So my presentation is about the improvement or improving the value of projects, construction projects. And here I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Vision 2030 as a trigger for the whole thing that's taking place currently. I'm gonna talk about some examples of the upcoming projects, benefits of implementing value improvement practices, how cost avoidance is accomplished in value engineering without sacrificing functionality. So I'm talking value engineering as an example. And then why there is a need for a value entity, value center, to fill the gap between the demand and supply of value practices. And then I will end with the state of Saudi construction industry beyond Vision 2030. You cannot present the Vision 2030 in a simpler form than sky is the limit. You know, since the establishment and the introduction of Vision 2030, we had a lot of news about new projects, and the magnitude and the number of programs and projects were unbelievable, and we are living them right now. Given some sort of examples, we're talking about Neom, Amala, Red Sea project, and Gidea. These are the ones that making the headlines, and we are hearing a lot about them. But there are a great number of other projects that are taking place, and they have a decent size in terms of amount of money and value that are taking place currently. Green Riyadh, Al-Ula, Al-Faisaliya. This is a list of a longer one that is of upcoming construction programs at different stages and for different sectors. And those examples, if you can note, they don't have really much to do with the oil and gas. So we're not talking here about the oil and gas projects, since Aramco is covering those ones. The distribution of the upcoming projects in terms of sector and the value of them, we're talking about something like $400 billion of projects. What I'm trying to say here with this introduction is the following. Currently, we have a lot of money being spent on capital programs. And the amount of improvement that can take place in such a programs is going to be significant and necessitates the need for a value improvements implementation for them. Value improvement practices is defined by IPA, which is Independent Project Analysis, as the tools and techniques identified by companies and industry and verified through research as disciplined practices that improve the value of capital projects. I want to spend more time here to show the portfolio of practices by IPA. IPA has a set of VIPs, namely technology selection, class of facility quality, process simplification, and waste minimization, and the rest. The columns show the significance in terms of benefits of those practices. For example, the potential cost improvement due to the implementation of VIPs range from 2 to 8%. And the potential schedule improvement ranges from 7 to 12%. And the potential operability improvement ranges from 3 to 12%. Also, the table shows that the benefits of some of the VIPs may not be, or may be difficult to quantify, and this is where we see the dashes. However, to give an example of the quantification of potential cost improvement for a VIP, some light will be put on value engineering. Value engineering is defined by SAFE International as a systematic process used by a multidisciplinary team to improve the value of a project, product, or process through the analysis of functions and resources. This is the process of the value engineering throughout the various stages and phases of the methodology. The methodology has 3 stages: the pre-work study, the workshop itself, and the post-workshop stage. For the first one, the implementation is done. For the second stage, there are the 6 phases of information, function analysis, creativity, evaluation, development, and presentation. This is where the multidisciplinary team gets together to look into the project and the study from a functional point of view and try to optimize the cost of it. And the last stage is the stage where the implementation actually takes place. These studies are led by certified value specialists and attended by team members representing all project stakeholders and key disciplines. When we talk about value improvement, we need to look at the value equation, where value is a ratio of function and cost. And for value to be improved, it doesn't mean that cost has to be reduced only. There has to be some sort of a balance between the two. Whenever there is a room for the functionality of a recommendation is higher than the functionality of the base case, and the life cycle cost of the recommendation is less than the life cycle cost of the base case, that's a way by which value can be improved. Another way by which the functionality of the recommendation is higher than the functionality of the base case, and the life cycle cost of the recommendation and the base case are the same. Another example is the functionality of the recommendation and the base case are the same, and the life cycle cost of the recommendation is less than the life cycle cost of the base case. Looking at a document by the Federal Highway Administration, the table shows that for each US dollar spent on value engineering studies, a return of $99 to $219 are expected in terms of cost improvement. It also shows that potential cost improvement of value engineering ranges from 5.8 to 8.4% per study. Going back to the list and thinking of those percentages, if if an effective way of implementing value engineering on those programs, a lot of those programs can be accomplished by reutilizing the funds for all the programs and making use of the money generated by the cost avoidances of some of them. Here, what I have, or what I'm calling for, and this is where I'm going to spend most of my time, is a value center. In the PMOD of Saudi Aramco, we have a dedicated division for value improvement. And that division has all the value practices, most of the value practices recommended by IPA. And it is coordinating for the rest of the practices with other departments. Currently, in the industry, we have the clients, the Saudi construction industry itself, and we have a good number of value improvement consultants. Those consultants are doing great in terms of serving the industry, but there is a belief that there is a gap between what the industry needs and what those consultants are providing. The current value improvement consultants, they have a limited time services that might end with no realization of the benefits of the VIPs. So the extent of services are limited. They have a limited number of VIPs that they provide to their customers. So some of those consultants have something like value engineering and other practice, but not a wide range of practices to serve the industry. They have limited lifespan due to the fact that most are one-man show. So it's a business by a consultant who was working for a company, he retired and he is doing it as that, but it doesn't have a business continuity because it's almost like a one-man show. This is why there is no room for growth because of limited employment in such consultancies, and there is no new generation picking up that knowledge and sharing it and evolving from there. For the value center, what's called for the value center, I look at it as the POD for the industry. So it is a partner with customers to provide project lifecycle services from the inception of the project till the realization of the value for that project. It have a wider range of VIPs that fulfill the need of any customer. So the value practices that are recommended by IPA, by the Construction Industry Institute, by other professional entities should be provided and served by that value center. It has a value, it has business continuity and no impact with loss of human resources. So that is business continuity is very critical to the industry, since some of the value consultants are out of business now because of many reasons. And there is accumulation of knowledge and expertise, and that is the expertise are evolving. The role of the function, the role of the value center and the functions of the value center is to support Saudi Vision 2030 through the promotion and the implementation of value optimization in Saudi construction, manufacturing, and service industries. Spread the knowledge of value optimization and its implementations among young Saudi professionals. Improve the cost effectiveness of organizations in the Saudi public and private sectors. Improve the functionality and quality of projects, products, and processes. For such a center, for such an entity, the value center, the target is the construction industry for business. And the focus is on the capital expenditure. However, such a center has the potential to serve other industries, such as the manufacturing and service industries. And the focus there is going to be in the operation and maintenance expenditures. The services of the value center is to provide consultations, studies, facilitation, and training. And these are the services that are not provided currently by a single body to serve the construction entity. What's beyond Vision 2030? The answer was 2040. That was the answer of the Crown Prince. And by saying that, it is expected that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will continue its ambitious construction program for many years to come. And the calls for more effective implementation of value improvement practices on construction projects and highlighting the need for a value center. Starting with the value engineering group in the year 2000 and ending up with a project optimization division, that is a journey that was in 20 years. It started with the need to have a better utilization of the funds. It was a very reactive way of doing value improvement. Currently, it is more into the proactive. The value improvement practices are implemented on standards, implemented on procedures, and going back to the improvement of the processes more than waiting for any failure in a project to do some sort of value improvement. By this, I end my presentation. Thank you, Dr. Awsan.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for the informative presentation. Now we will move to the last presentation, which is Mr. Mosley. Mr. Mosley will give us a talk on contract and contract administration as essential element in Saudi construction development. Dr. Mohammed, we have a panel discussion after Mosley presentation.
Definitely.
So if you have any questions, Shabab, just write your question in the Q&A box. Mosley, the floor is yours. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, friends and colleagues.
Alaikum salam.
It's great to be with you. And also, it's a great privilege of mine to be the last presenter today, because now I have the opportunity to tie everything together in a way that we can understand how we're going to provide these goods and services that have been presented to us. Are you able now to see my presentation or just me?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Zane. Okay, so let's get started. Simply stated, a contract is a risk allocation tool. It assigns risk to the parties of the contract. Today's contracts, as we've learned so far, can be very simple, from maybe a villa, or they can be very complex to even building whole cities. Today, companies spend a large portion of their time and resources extracting information, reviewing that information, analyzing that data from their contracts and other legal documents. Many of these contracts are very long and very complex. For example, Contracts that I'm currently working on have between 1,300 and 1,500 pages just for the contract, not to state the specifications and all the additional information that goes along with that contract. Tens of thousands of pages of correspondence throughout the life cycle of a contract is very commonplace. To go through manually this process is both tedious and error prone, leaving companies open to financial and legal risks. Artificial intelligence may be defined as the capability of a computer to perform operations similar to learning and decision-making in humans. Artificial intelligence helps the computer or the machine learn from experience and then adjust to new inputs, similar to the way that humans perform these tasks. If you recall, Saudi Arabia led the way in granting Sophia citizenship in 2017. You remember Sophia is artificial intelligence robot. Contrasted now with other industries, the construction industry typically lags behind in technological progress. Excuse me. Now, progress has been being made recently. We have semi-autonomous equipment. We have autonomous equipment, meaning there's not an operator sitting on the bulldozer or the motor grader as it does its work. Semi-autonomous will be like machine and human working together. Staffing challenges, craft challenges, the declining population or pool of craftsmen, skilled labor, as well as construction professionals, is forcing the construction industry to be disrupted, to change the way that we think in the built environment. Currently, personnel in the construction professional depends on specific skills that they've developed either through studying at the university or on-the-job training, particular practices, and judgment based on experience. These type skills are difficult to replicate and digitize. But one area that is relatively easy to digitize is procurement. And when I mean procurement, I'm saying that's a purchase order as well as a contract. Because in fact, if it's just a purchase, well, I say just, if it's a purchase order for materials, it is indeed a contract by definition. So that's what I mean by procurement. Now, let's talk a bit about smart contracts. Smart contracts are immutable and distributed. Those are the two aspects. Immutable means it cannot be changed by one party alone. And distributed means it's in a network of personnel and multiple people will have access to and be able to review the contract at the same time in real time. So one party can't change or tamper with the contract without everyone knowing it. So who are the people in this network? Well, the owner probably has multiple reviewers of a contract throughout the life cycle. The architect engineer office or the project engineer will have multiple reviewers. And of course, the contractor will have multiple people that are, performing the contract, will be reviewing and using this contract. So you may have several people that can have access to this contract at the same time. So let's say, for example, a contractor wants to file a pay application or an invoice. Well, these multiple people can review and validate that invoice all at the same time. They can certify it. The digital handshake that's provided by these smart contracts creates a shared trust among these stakeholders. That's because everybody sees it at the same time, and you know that it's immutable, that nobody can alter the contract without everybody agreeing on those alterations. Here's one example. Do I believe that, you know, smart contracts that are automated, totally automated without human interface are going to appear in Saudi Arabia at first? I do not. I would say that we are going to probably see clauses or smart clauses in a contract. So that, what I mean by that is we could automate payments, okay? They could be milestone based. We talked earlier about digitization, about pictures, videos, taking progress photos can be done daily. It can be done with drones. They can be done with stationary cameras located strategically around the project. Well, AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning can compare those photographs and see how much progress is made. And we'll talk a little bit further about building information modeling, which has been presented by Dr. Eyad earlier. That can compare those photographs or those progress videos with that model and verify if the milestone has been met or if a project event has been accomplished or met. And then that would start the pay application process, or the invoice could be verified and paid. That's something that we could automate pretty easily, I think. They can track all these invoices through the payment process. There are companies that have, excuse me, and studies that have indicated that when they do audits, there are multiple invoices for the same work, especially on a large, complex project. You know, that can lead to waste, to fraud, abuse. This way, the machine doesn't transpose numbers. It doesn't make mistakes. It carries through and tracks those invoices from when it's received all the way through when it's paid, and then it's archived. It increases the accuracy. Payments can be made quicker. I think the law now states in Kingdom that payments must be made within 3 months, which still seems to be a little bit long. There are others here in the US. It's very common in construction contracts to have payments made in 30 days. As we discussed a little bit earlier, I think it perhaps was Dr. Mohammed that presented automation of ordering materials. You could have limits, you know, on your construction site. You can have maximum and minimum warehouse limits for lumber, so to speak. And when you've used lumber and it's approaching the minimum, then this smart contract can automatically place an order to replace the lumber that's being used, as well as keep check on the activities and forecast through predictive forecasting, how much lumber has been used, how much needs to be used. The sky is the limit, as we've said already today. Tracking and documenting deliverables. Now, when we're talking about deliverables, I mean, these are contract deliverables such as submittals, material submittals, shop drawings, detailed drawings, all manner of digital submittals can be made. The smart contract can analyze those, compare them to the standards. Did they meet the Saudi building code? which Dr. Ali addressed today. These are all sources of information that this smart contract can pull in as resources, okay? And verify and check that all of these contract requirements have been met before payment is made. We can record and monitor events, transaction, transmittals, visibility and transparency to all of the stakeholders and those that are party to the contract, for example, can be done with a dashboard. So management can very quickly see how we're performing on the contract. What's the health of the project? It can be verified. You can verify that where are we in our submittals? Are we behind? Are we ahead? How many have been rejected? Why were they rejected? What do we need to do to improve? We spent some time today discussing building information modeling. These are resources that would feed into the smart contract, the schedule, the three-dimensional drawings, the cost, the as-built information, all 7D are the 7 dimensions that we're currently looking at in the BIM, or the building information modeling. I think Dr. Eyad presented that one. Wonderful, excellent input. All these things now will feed into our contract. All this information will be tied together and will help us to perform the contract better, more efficiently, more smoothly, more quickly, with fewer errors. Now, there is the notion of an automatically generated contract. My research suggests that 70% of the large law firms in the United States and in England use automatically generated contracts, computer generated contracts. They input certain parameters of the project, and the machine, the output, will be a model contract based on current laws, based on current risks, input, terms and conditions are selected based on the input parameters that go into this model. This is something that could happen very quickly in Kingdom. And later on, I'll talk about some of the challenges that we would face in creating these type contracts. Contracts can automatically be executed. That's what we talked about just above. As we're performing the contracts, these could be done automatically, even to the fact without human intervention. That's kind of the end product. We're not there yet. This whole notion of AI and smart contracts is still in its infancy, but it's coming fast. We can also see where the supply chain is and is not working for the overall project. For example, we talked a little bit about operation and maintenance. If you're performing building maintenance and you have some regularly scheduled preventative maintenance on, let's say, the air conditioning equipment, geofencing, you can tell when a subcontractor or contractor shows up to do that preventative maintenance. You know how long the technician is on site performing that maintenance. Through stationary cameras, you could document that he changed the filters, that he checked the refrigeration levels and things of that nature. Also through other Internet of the IoT, Internet of Things monitors, you can check the refrigeration levels and pressures and temperatures of that nature. You can also tell when the technician leaves the site. So when the invoice comes in and the maintenance company says, our technician spent 10 hours doing the preventative maintenance, when your record, your smart contract says, well, he was only there for 5 hours, then you can challenge the contractor and say, well, that doesn't match with our records show. So there, again, verification, geofencing, that technology is here. It's being used. Sourcing materials is another area. I know Saudi Aramco has a whole unit that source materials and suppliers and contractors. This is something that can be automated with relative ease. You know, the AI, artificial intelligence, can be out there combing the internet on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, gathering information, feeding it back to the humans that are going to have to, you know, use their intellect to review what's been scavenged up by these computers. But it could, you put the necessary parameters in, you say, I want the Saudi building code, you reference it, or I want an ASTM code and you reference it, and you say, okay, I need some pipe. Then this AI smart contract can go out and do the sourcing and find the pipe that meets the specification on a global platform. Smart contracts, the benefits are risk assessment, track and measure the effects of late work or early work for that matter, accountability, fraud, abuse, compliance checks, procedures, completing, you know, competitive bidding can be done, benchmarking internally with your own company or against other companies, audits. These type things are easily digitized. We talked a bit about construction analytics already today, but we can also analyze the terms and conditions of the contract. Were those T's and C's effective? Did they correctly apportion the risk to the different participants in the contract? We can look at revenue analysis, profit margin analysis, cost analysis, any kind of project anomalies. Now, when we talk about anomalies, those are occurrences that weren't planned for. And I don't know about you, but I have never worked on nor heard of a project that has gone exactly as planned. And so there's always going to be changes. These changes sometimes lead to disagreements, which lead to claims. These type things can be analyzed. It can be accredited, operational efficiency, accelerated. Now, looking to the future, integrated technology powered by AI is truly a disruptive realm, especially in construction. Ideas that seem to be so far in the future have now become reality. Owners and contractors both can benefit tremendously from adopting these systems that monitor and respond to information on a real-time basis. You will have this real-time information, and management will, before a decision needs to be made. Now, the challenges in looking ahead, without proper oversight, artificial intelligence could lead to unintended consequences, harmful consequences. There is no one solution that fits all, one size that fits all in mitigating risk allocation associated with contracts, period, but especially in artificial intelligence type contracts. Technology implementation with human characteristics will continue to shape our working environment. That is the future. The future is closing in on us very quickly. It is here in many aspects, but especially in construction. Now, one of the challenges is I am not familiar with any artificial intelligence platform that generates contracts written in Arabic. KFUPM have a whole department for computer science. I hope that and would challenge KFUPM to be a forerunner in the Arab nation, the Arab world, in developing contracts, smart contracts in Arabic. Most of the platforms and the computer languages that have been developed for smart contracts are around English language. So perhaps there is a language that convert real time from Arabic to English, or from English to Arabic, or just a straight Arabic platform for writing and generating contracts and executing contracts automatically. Now, I have to pause here for just a moment and share with you a kind of a funny story. When I wrote my thesis, Dr. Abdelaziz Boubsheikh was my thesis advisor. And one of the requirements is that you write the abstract of the thesis in Arabic. The rest of the thesis can be in English. Well, I wrote it in Arabic. I put it in Google Translate. I copied it, I pasted it onto the proper format, and I submitted it to Dr. Abdelaziz, who immediately asked me, did you use Google Translate to write this in Arabic? And of course I had to look at my shoes and say, yes. He says, I'll get you some help. So we need to develop, Google Translate kind of gets the idea across, but when we're talking about contract language, it needs to be very exact. So this is one of the biggest challenges I see facing in the Arabic world. We already talked about smart clauses versus smart contracts. I see that as the first step. Perhaps you're thinking, oh, this is going to put people out of work, but not necessarily. In my experience, anytime a new process, a new computer process has been initiated, it creates more jobs than it does away with. Now, yes, the repetitive work, excuse me, where humans make mistakes will probably be replaced, but those people can be retrained and repurposed where human cognitive skills are applied. So the machine is going to produce a contract, the human is going to review it and say, yeah, that's going to work, or that's not going to work so well. We need to refine it and change it. I see artificial intelligence is one of construction's new frontiers. We need to embrace it. Now, let me put a plug in for a Center for Contracting Studies. I would foresee something like this being developed, or I hope to see something developed at KFUPM or in the general area. The results from a May 2018 study conducted at Aramco concluded that there is a large knowledge gap between technical and contract administration skills. The findings are that the professionals, especially the construction professionals in the Eastern Province, are very well known for their strong technical knowledge, for accounting, for engineering, for supply chain management, other areas of endeavor. But it's also well known that contract interpretation is not taught in university curriculum, unless you're going to Prince Muhammad University and you're a law student. So there is a widespread lack of understanding of construction contracts that has been observed in the kingdom. This is a topic that is well studied. We need to close that gap. That is something I would say is first and foremost in my mind that would help to raise and maintain the awareness of new areas that are being developed in acquisition of goods and services. It will provide better contract documents. It will reduce claims. It will reduce disagreements if we can better understand contracts, because most of the people that administer contracts globally are engineers, architects, people that have been trained and are very good at technical skills. But there's a very few that have been trained in contracts, contract interpretation, and administration of contracts. This is a #1 concern of mine, not only in the Eastern Province, but across the country. This Center for Contract Studies would help close that gap. It would also provide a platform for annual contract law and policy forum. The contract laws are changing very rapidly in Kingdom, as well as we see the code requirements are changing as well. The rest of this, it's a platform for KFUPM CII to present learning and studies. The instructors for this contracting center for studies could come from industry, from government, from law offices, from other universities. And of course, the results of this would be higher quality contracts. Certifications can come out of this so that you know what level of contract administrator you have, and ultimately reduce corporate risk to disputes, claims, and lawsuits. And with that, I would love to entertain any questions, any comments that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley, for the excellent presentation. If you have any question for attendees, if you have any question, please write your question or comment in the Q&A box. And if you have any question regarding to the last two presentations, Dr. Muhammad and Dr. Mosley. We have a question, mostly, what are the name of systems using smart contract in USA? Is it implemented here in KSA?
This is a critical question. And forgive me, I'm Sheba, and I have forgotten the name of the platform. There is a specific platform and a specific software language that has been developed for the implementation of smart contracts. It is primarily for English contracts. I'm not aware that it's being used in Kingdom because it's primarily targeted at for English language. But I will get you an answer and provide it in this forum. Thank you for asking that question.
Thank you, Rusty. Other questions, Shabab, or comments regarding the last two presentations? Dr. Mansour.
Yes, Dr. Hassan.
Yeah, do you have anything to say or?
I would like to thank all of the guest speakers for joining us. And I'd like to thank all of the participants for joining us too. And maybe one question for mostly about the smart contracts. So do you believe there is an overlap between a smart contract and the blockchain technology that have been published or used recently?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, smart contracts is built on the blockchain. That's what makes it distributable and immutable. That's the very foundation is the blockchain. And that's what also makes it very secure. So thank you. That's a critical question.
So so what do you think the practical challenges that are confronting decision makers in Saudi, so we can maybe develop some practical research articles about these kinds of challenges?
Excellent question. I know that Saudi Aramco is studying the blockchain for implementation, but I don't know the status of what those research studies are. But I would say, developing a programming language that will read Arabic, if that's not already in the works. I would also encourage research into the field of smart contracts and applying them in Arabic, as well as, you could help lead the world in smart contracts in English. But integrating all those dimensions we talked about and pulling all that information into that smart contract is another research area that I would recommend. For example, it may not just be the building information modeling where there's so much information. It could be weather data, because there are laws governing how warm it can be before you can, before you stop work. There could be claims and disputes for severe and unusual weather that is defined by the contract or defined by law. And so if you have this weather data that's in real time being pulled into the smart contract, this contract can analyze that and very quickly say, well, no, it wasn't severe and unusual. You should have planned for high winds or rain and things of that nature. So I would say starting now to start thinking forward to how to implement these smart contracts, little by little. I would say smart clauses first, and just pulling these bits of information from all over. There's study, I know KFUPM, some of the professors have been studying smart sensory for safety, where they have sensors, wearable sensors, and things of that nature. All this can feed into contract requirements. So that's my vision for the future of construction in Kingdom. The FIDIC, I see this. We have in the chat column, we have a question about the FIDIC contracts. Most excellent question. And actually, I wanted to address that, but due to time limitations, I didn't. I think, FIDIC is a good place to start because so many of our contracts in Kingdom are based on the FIDIC. We could probably springboard off of other nations, or even the FIDIC itself may be converting these to smart contracts or having smart clauses from the FIDIC. And I think what makes it particularly adaptable is it's a standard form of contract. So it's not an ad hoc or just, you didn't just go out and hire a law firm to write a construction contract for you, ad hoc, one at a time. FIDIC is more, it's a standard form of contract. So I would think that would be a great research topic as well. Great question, thank you. Okay, there's another question that seems here. Can we consider the professional indemnity insurance one of the requirements for any, that's a PMO contract. Absolutely. That is one of the advantages to these smart contracts are you can feed those indemnity clauses and insurance clauses into your smart contract. They can be verified and validated electronically. The contract or can do it itself. Are the necessary limits of liability included? Are the terms of the insurance included that meet the contract requirements? You're just comparing. Right now, you have humans, they read the insurance policy, they read the contract. Does it meet the contract requirements? Does it meet the law? Yes, no. Or, so the machine can do that, I think, very quickly. Very good question. Thank you. That goes for financing as well. Do you have a bank guarantee? When does it expire? What are the limits of that guarantee? Is it sufficient? All these risk type based questions can very, very quickly, at the speed of light almost, be answered by a smart contract. So very good.
Another question, Mr. Mosley. What types of conflicts that may arise in the construction industry related to the implementation of smart contract in Saudi Arabia? And if there are any.
Super question. Even if we had 1,000 lawyers or 1,000 smart computers generating a contract, there will always be something. There's not a perfect contract. So there will always be something that will be missed, will be left out. There will always be a different interpretation of a contract term or a condition. So there will always be disagreements. I think that, construction contracts are full of uncertainty and full of risk. And so there are two things in my mind that are certain. There will be changes and there will be disagreements. I don't think we're going to get away from disagreements. Now, when a disagreement does arise, or a different interpretation of the same contract or contract term, already law firms are using artificial intelligence and a machine-assisted review of contract documents, electronic review of documents, because in a claim condition, there are tens of thousands of pages to go through. Think about how many electronic emails you write. Think about how many letters, how many drawings, everything on a project, especially on the magnitude of projects in Saudi Arabia. There are tens of thousands of pages. Normally, you hire junior lawyers to sit there and read, paralegals and junior lawyers, every page. They highlight words. They put a sticky note on the side of the document. Your machine can do this super quick. I mean, in seconds that will take months. Think of the cost savings that you can have as a company. For example, the lawyers that I'm currently working with are billing between $1,300 and $1,500 an hour. So think of you've got a machine that does this in minutes versus, a $500 or $1,000 an hour lawyer plowing through that. Now, perhaps you're also thinking about what are some of the legal challenges? What is, like Sophia, what responsibility does Sophia have as a Saudi citizen? Okay. Does she pay zakat? Does she what? So those are all questions that remain unanswered in my mind, but need to be addressed. And as this technology improves, we'll have to address those questions. Who has the liability? A machine generated this contract. Well, who has the liability of that contract? Is it collective? Is it shared? These are all questions, again, that could be researched and studied. But excellent question. Thank you for asking. Okay, we have another question that seems here from Muhammad bin Nasser. Do you think smart contracts, automated payments can be integrated into the progress of robotics on construction? Great question. Yes, I do. I think so. Absolutely. I think, you know, we've got robotics that are assisting humans now currently in construction. I don't know. How do you invoice for one of these robots? You know, do you pay him the same rate as you would a carpenter or an electrician? Gosh, I don't know. Those are type things that we have to figure out, I think, but absolutely. And if I'm answering your question correctly, or if I understand it correctly, that would be how, you know, what's the billable rate of this robot? How would I bill the robot? And how could I invoice, you know, for this robot's time? Once again, I guess you do it if it's by an hourly rate, or if it's by a milestone, or if it's by a task. We'll have to define that in the contract. But I would say yes, you know, it's a billable rate, just like, you know, if you hire an electrician, you hire an electrician and his helper, which happens to be a robot. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Other questions? Comments?
Well, it's been a great pleasure meeting with you this evening, and I'm very excited about the future of the construction industry in Kingdom. And I encourage all of us as construction professionals, as contracting professionals, as supply chain managers and professionals, to always be looking to the future, to embrace these changes, but to do so cautiously and with wisdom.
Dr. Muhammad Al-Ghamdi, this question is for you. How do construction projects add value? This is a general question.
How do construction projects add value?
Yes.
Well, it's a bit tricky question, because it looks like looking at the other side of the coin, but we hope that by implementing value improvement practices, we can add value to construction projects. And the implementation of those practices goes from the early stages, front end, you know, design and so on, and implementing different practices based on the needs. Some of the practices are targeting the capacities, other targeting schedules, other targeting the scope, the rest is targeting the cost. So each practice has its own focus. And by picking the right tool for the right project, value definitely gonna be improved. And one of the slides that shows the 12 VIPs of IPA gave a flavor of that, how each one of those practices benefit the project or the construction project differently. So that's my answer to the question.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. This question is for Rusty. How can we secure the process of automatic payment in smart contract?
Okay, this is part of the blockchain technology, which is secure. It's very difficult right now because there's not, it's difficult to change the contract or to commit fraud, or, you know, like theft or something of that nature, because it's distributed. It's not one computer. It's distributed among all the computers on the network. And again, that network might be, you know, the architect engineer office, the owner's office, the contractor's office. So now you have a minimum of 3 offices, and it's distributed equally among them. And everybody has visibility. They can see all the information and the contract. So that makes it more difficult to hack into one. You know, you might hack into one, but you're not going to hack into all 3. Now, having said that, I'm very sure that there are bad actors all over the world trying to defeat the blockchain. That just seems to be the nature of humanity. But you look at things like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is based on blockchain, and these other banking institutions are really looking into Bitcoin. So those 2 aspects, I think, makes this contract more secure and less likely to be tampered with. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mosley.
It's my great pleasure.
Dr. Laith,
Okay, thank you, Rusty. Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. It was very informative, and we would like to thank you on behalf of the department and our alumni, our students, for those spiritual and visionary talks that you have made today. For Dr. Ghamdi, I have one question that I want to share with you from one of the audiences. The lean construction, the concept of the lean construction, how do you see it overlapping with the value engineering? And second, like the old value management and save practices, how would you see that the invasion of the digital BIM practices, etc., are contributing or be overwhelming to the traditional practices? In the long run, which one would be more dominant or more prevalent?
The first question about the lean construction, when the POD started, the lean construction was an important component of that. And projects were evaluated, projects were, there were like workshops trying to implement different best practices to enhance the construction, make it leaner in terms of scope, cost, and schedule, and look into the components of it, trying to identify the ones that are, for complications during the construction and so on. So it was a way to start the project performance optimization division. And then after a journey of assessment and so on, that led to the focus on the practices, since their methodologies were more clear, well established, and the benefits were like realization was proven. So we went from the concept of lean construction into the implementation of the methodologies themselves. The second question about the traditional versus the new trend of digitization and more into the systems and so on. Well, I see the traditional one is going away, and actually we've started looking into this. How can we have a system for the implementation of value improvement, the facilitation itself, where you have people sitting together in a workshop and having different parties coming from different representing different stakeholders and attending those workshops. It's no longer going to be the way after a while. So a system will be there, ideas will be generated, AI will take place in terms of leading the team into areas for value improvements, and things can be done much easier way. It's a matter of a time where we find ourselves much away from the traditional way of doing business. So that's my answer to your question, Dr. Lee.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Awsan, do we have any further questions?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Thank you, Mosley. And I would like to thank all of our speakers for their participation. I would like to thank all of you for attending this event and your discussion. So, Dr. Laith, if you have anything to say, you can. The floor is yours.
Thank you all, and I wish you get the most benefit of those informative talks. I would like to thank Rusty. I would like to thank Dr. Al-Ghamdi and Dr. Eyad, Dr. Ali Shash, and all the attendees. And by this, I will conclude the session. And we really enjoyed the company of the support that we have received and the level of the engagement during the talks. So a big thank you for all of you, and that will conclude it. Assalamu alaikum and wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dr. Masud, do you have anything to say?
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Laith, Dr. Awsan, and thank you for our guest speakers, Dr. Eyad, Muhammad, and Dr. Ali, and Mosley for joining us tonight and for this evening. And have a good night.
Okay, thank you all again, and see you inshallah in coming events. مع السلامة.
Ma salama.
Yeah.